cherish all the time you spend, you tuned in to. It's time again to cherish all the time you spend, you tuned in to. It's the number one podcast. The topics of discussion when we broadcast. So all them artificial man jokes, we do it natural from the concrete to a public standpoint. Real, wherever you're from, life is coexistence, but to know the real, you just gotta listen. Wherever you're from, life is coexistence, but to know the real, you just gotta listen. It's time again.
What up, y'all? You tuned in to the 52 Scott Podcast. This is Music Monday, and I'm your host, Slash. And with me, I got Comedian 96, K Money, Freddie G. Together, we are the Mind of Men. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast. On Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast. All right, and welcome back to another episode of Music Monday. Another great show in the works for you today. However, over the past week, last week, we lost a member of the Jacksons, which was Tito Jackson. Died at 70 years old. Not sure of what the cause may have been, but I do want to send my condolences out to the Jackson family. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Jackson family is like music royalty. They've had a history of albums, history of brothers and sisters, singing, doing solo albums, doing group albums. And I mean, there's so many of them, and it all started out with the dad, which is Joe Jackson. Now, I've had the opportunity to meet Joe Jackson before he passed years ago. Very low-key, kind of, not talkative. He was really, really quiet person, but I could tell that he meant business. So he married Catherine Jackson, and they lived where they both were living in Gary, Indiana. And they had this big family of so many children. I mean, it was a lot of them. So I'll give you a list of names of these Jackson family. So we have Rebe Jackson, which she's the oldest. We have Jackie Jackson. He was next. We have Tito Jackson, which made him the third Jackson. He was born October 15th, which would be right around the corner, in 1953. So we have next Jermaine Jackson. After Jermaine, it was LaToya Jackson. After LaToya Jackson is Marlon Jackson. After Marlon Jackson, Brandon Jackson. After Brandon Jackson, we get to Michael Jackson, who was the king of pop, world known. After Michael Jackson, we have Randy Jackson. After Randy Jackson, the last in line is going to be Janet Jackson. Now, Michael and Janet were the two most popular from the Jackson family. They kind of surpassed music and pop again. Mike was it, But before there was Michael, there was the Jackson 5, which included Tito, Randy, Jermaine, Michael, and I want to say, who else was it in the Jackson 5? It was so many of them.
Tito, Michael, Jermaine.
Well, they were the Jackson 5 first, and then they switched over to the Jacksons.
Right.
Because they added someone.
So the original Jackson 5 was Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael. Mm-hmm. And that was in 1975.
Say it again slowly, I'm sorry.
So that was Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael.
So they added Randy.
So Randy replaced Jermaine after.
And then when Jermaine came back for a little spell, I want to say on the Destiny album.
Jermaine made a separate album.
They were the Jacksons.
Yeah.
Were the sisters added at that time or not?
Say it again.
Consisted of Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael.
So
in 1975,
so Siri
Randy replaced Jermaine.
is listening. Thank you, Siri. All right, so sorry about that, listeners. Siri, she likes to say what she wants to say.
Special guest.
She a little thought sometimes.
When she wants. But, yeah, the Jacksons, now, Jermaine Jackson had several records.
That's what I thought. I remember the song called Torture. I remember that song. That was one of
This before that.
Even before that?
Man, come on, man. Jermaine.
Yeah, let's get serious.
Listen,
He sure did.
Jermaine had records before the Jackson 5.
Even formed.
Before they even formed.
Didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, so I had to go back and listen.
Wow.
So I went back and listened to Jermaine. Jermaine is probably, now he was jamming, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Jermaine was the gateway to the Jackson 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They was really pushing him as a major artist. He had 3 titled, well, I don't know the titles of his albums, but he had 3 albums, and he was the gateway to the Jacksons. But now, before even that, the dad, Joe Jackson, he was in a band.
He was in the band himself, yeah.
I don't think they ever reached that plateau to where they could actually be successful, but the music was in him. And I think what happened was he would have instruments around the house, and he would have those kids, hey, man, play this instrument, play this guitar, So he formed a family of musicians, which got to be hard to do. And a lot of people, they kind of say, well, he beat them into success. And I mean, in a sense, I don't think that he did that. I think he was just being a father to those kids, because none of them ever stepped up and said, my dad beat me so bad I had to be hospitalized.
Not at all. No.
See, back in those days, you was able to chastise your children.
Yeah,
Take that ass whooping. You ain't lying.
And I think that's all that Joe Jackson was doing. If you got in some trouble, you was finna catch it. If you missing this rehearsal, you're going to get your ass whooped.
Yeah.
And it was that. Now, they saying what he did, but that was what made this family successful. It was Joe's drive.
Yep.
The mom, Catherine, she was a Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh, she sure was. Yep. I thought Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness, I'm sorry.
That's what she was.
That's what she was.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She was a Jehovah's Witness. So she had different types of values when it came to chastising children. But Joe took the lead, and he knew what he was trying to do. He worked in a steel mill, so he would come home from work and have these kids, let's go to practice. Let's practice. I'm just getting in, but we're going to practice because we need to be great,
Yeah.
But what that means is Jermaine kind of took him to a level where, Motown was able to understand. And when you listen to the music that he had, it was similar to the Jacksons' music. So there was the same musicians and different stuff like that, working on these projects. Now, that was before Rebe, LaToya, and Janet even dropped albums.
I know that.
Now, Tito never really was a solo artist. He was always group. I've never heard him.
I don't even think he collabed with anybody.
Well, he was a guitar player.
Yeah.
I think he had some blues songs or albums he may have put out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I also heard that there's a song that they sing at the Alabama football game that I think Tito did.
Yeah.
And it's a song they sing every home game, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of it, but I heard this over social media, I want to say.
Yeah. So they now, do y'all remember this? And I'm gonna go way back for a minute. The Jackson 5 cartoon.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. There's one episode I remember particularly. This when Michael had caught a cold and it was in his head, and then the bubble cold came out and went to somebody else. Every time I look at some people, I'll be like, "Nah, you get your bubble cold ass away from me."
Yeah, they had a list of successful things that they were able to do, all because of Joe Jackson. I mean, when Joe Jackson passed, I think there was a little bit of beef between him and Michael at the time because the dad allegedly had gambling issues while living in Las Vegas, and he would just constantly try to get money from Mike out of all the $350 million he had, But Mike would never turn him down. Mike would give it to the mama. I know what he gonna do with the money, mama, but just you take the money. I'm gonna let you give him the money as well as how you think, But yeah, I got to meet Joe, man, and Joe was a man of distinction, man. He knew what he was after. He knew what he was trying to get to. He took that family to success. Mm-hmm. And the third generation of the Jacksons, which is important also to Tito, is the fact that 3T was a group, and that was his sons.
I did not know that.
Yeah, 3T. Mm-hmm. They did 3 actual studio records. Mm-hmm. And I can remember seeing an interview with those guys. Now, I can't pronounce their names. They names are way.
I think it's Taj Jackson. The other one is, I think, Tariell Jackson. Tariell Jackson, but it's spelled Tarill.
Yeah, Taj is Tariano is Taj. Mm-hmm. And then Taro Adrian Jackson, I think is the other one you're talking about.
And TJ.
Which is Tito Joe Jackson. So he got his dad and his granddad's name mixed in there.
Well, Tito's name is Tariano. He was born Tariano
right.
Darryl Jackson.
And he named one of his sons Toriano,
yeah.
which is Taj.
Is he a junior?
The other one is Tito. Yeah, Taj Jackson is junior.
Okay.
So, yeah, he named both of his sons his names, and one of his sons, him and his
royalty.
His dad's
the royalty
name.
like to say the second instead of junior.
Right. So they released 3 studio albums, and some of them went on to have success in other parts of the industry, primarily outside of the U.S. So you can imagine in these other countries what's happening in these other countries.
That's where they was making that money from, overseas money.
Well, Mike was an overseas guy.
Yeah.
The man had a statue in Russia.
They was getting money here too now.
Yeah, they was getting it
I
here.
know, but you got to think them overseas sales.
Well, they was making more in record sales here in America.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, because that's what. How many Jackson 5 shows was it in America?
Jackson 5 shows.
Jackson 5. Bro, I don't know if they even
had one. Maybe Apollo. Maybe
man, they was large.
Yeah, maybe Apollo when it first started. Maybe that's it.
Let me ask you this to make it make more sense.
Yeah.
When was the last time you seen Michael Jackson do a show in America?
It was never. I don't
you feel what I'm saying? This how large.
This
they
is
were.
it. What was This Is It? Wasn't that in?
Well, it was some of it.
Make it.
It didn't. He never did it, but some of it was gonna be
in L.A. It didn't happen.
Yeah, but majority of it was overseas. That's where majority of their money came from. Overseas, they got so many people that love them. Like I said, Michael Jackson had a statue in Russia.
Mm-hmm. So they did a tribute for Mike, I think in Madison Square Garden, and he did come out and perform. That's when he bumped into Usher. Usher bumped into him.
Yeah.
He started to dance off.
Yeah, he was dancing. He was trying to float right. Usher tried to float right like Michael run right into him. They float right into each other.
Yeah, Usher can't mess with Mike, man. Mike was it, man.
Yeah.
But of course, later Mike had kids. He had 3 children. Of course, it was Prince, Paris. And I think it was one more. I know it was Prince and Paris and Michael Jackson. No, Prince, Michael Jackson the second. Prince was the second Jackson of Michael.
That's what I thought. That makes sense, huh?
Nah, but I mean, man, they have such a big family, man, and
it is a big family.
I mean, as I'm looking at the breakdown, man, the names are starting to go away from Jackson. It's so many of them. You got Freemans, you got Kings, you got Williams, you got Screws. It's so many different names.
Kings, that's name. Didn't somebody? I could be totally wrong. As a lady we graduated with in high school, that King, she's allegedly supposed to have been kin to Michael. I'm not sure if it's right, but I'm just
Janet even have a child. What's it? Issa? Issa?
Jenny got a baby?
Manna?
She got a baby from that guy overseas.
In 2017.
I didn't know she had a baby.
Yeah, she 50 years old. Had that baby.
I thought she had a boy.
Yeah.
Issa Manna. I don't know if that's a boy.
I think it's a boy.
Yeah, the way it's spelled, Eissa. So
Issa Rae is a girl, so it's kind of hard.
Man,
It's a unisex day.
Yeah, it is. Issa is.
They all have different names, man. If you just really look at them, you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now it says right here that the eldest son of Jackie Johnson is a hip hop artist who goes under the name of Deals, and he's a ghostwriter for a number of independent artists and obtained mild success as a solo artist. I never knew that.
Me either.
He's a ghostwriter. So he's been writing for people. Okay, Jermaine LaJuan J. Jackson Jr. The eldest son of Jermaine Jackson played his father in the 1992 miniseries, The Jacksons.
I didn't know that. I don't even recall saying if
I didn't either.
Who that?
Jermaine Jackson's son. He's LaJuan J. Jackson Jr. He's a junior, Jermaine.
Miniseries. I ain't never seen the miniseries though.
I never knew that. Reby had a son. What was his name? It doesn't say what his name is. Austin Brown. I don't think he did anything in the music industry, but majority of them have. You know,
she actually has 3: Austin, Yashi, and Stacy.
Okay, Reby.
Brown.
Yeah, and she's the oldest of all of them.
Wow.
She was the first Jackson. Now, she had an album. I don't remember how well she did out the album, but I know LaToya did pretty good. As weird as they said she was, I don't think LaToya was weird. I think LaToya was just kind of quiet because of, you know, what she had been around all her life. You know,
I think what made people have a disdain for LaToya was the white guy that she was married to that was abusing her.
Yeah,
and she kind of pretty much put up with it. Now she did have a hit song called "Hearts Don't Lie."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Mike was tried and acquitted for molestation charges in 1993 and 2005. In my honest opinion, I don't think that he did nothing.
Question: y'all think Mike attended any of those Diddy parties?
No.
Nah. I will tell you what I do think of Mike, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mike was probably one of the most generous celebrities.
Exactly.
That one would ever be involved in.
I think so.
And I really do believe that man really cared about the world.
He did.
And healing the world.
I
Keyword
believe that.
world, not just the U.S.
Yeah.
Right.
World.
Yeah. And
I believe that.
I believe that he really had that spirit for real.
No, I think you're right.
I'm not going to speak on it, but just say Cat Williams had a line in his stand-up. Don't nobody keep saying shit about you if it ain't for real. That's all I'm going to leave it there.
So
I'm going to leave it there.
And in Michael Jackson's defense,
No.
I don't think it was ever proved. He was never proven guilty.
It wasn't. I mean, how many rappers and did it and wasn't proven guilty?
Oh, they proving him guilty now.
Some of them. How many are getting off and they really did it?
Let me ask you this, not to change the subject too much, but in your honest opinion, do you think Cat Williams is crazy?
Yeah.
Do you think that he think he's crazy?
I don't think he think he's crazy.
Okay. Now, what did Cat Williams say about Michael Jackson?
He just said, people don't keep saying stuff about you if it's not true.
So
that's what it's. You just don't keep saying.
So
you keep saying it year after year after year.
So all of the people that's calling Cat Williams crazy, and he's steady defending himself like, no, he's not crazy. He'll sit back and say, well, people say I'm crazy, but I ain't crazy. Based upon what you're saying that he's saying about Mike, it got to go the same thing. The shoe got to be another foot for him.
True that. But he's a comedian, so they're gonna think all comedians are crazy.
No, we're not talking about the job occupation.
Hey, look,
We're not talking about the job occupation.
This same crazy dude brought up P. Diddy and said 2024, all the big stuff coming out, and what happened in 2020?
Stuff was already brought up about P. Diddy.
All that stuff was already talked about P. Diddy years ago. Slash done told you about stories of P. Diddy and Mace, man.
Nobody else
years ago.
Look, I don't know, yes or no. Honestly, knowing the Michael Jackson,
all I'm saying is, does the shoe go on the same foot for Slash?
I say yes. I said, in my honest opinion, I don't think he did it. But in Cat Williams' defense, don't nobody keep saying shit about you if it's not true. If it's being continuously said about it, I don't think he did it.
Okay,
I'm a Michael Jackson fan, so I don't think he did it. But everybody has something in their closet that. And with his money, he can leave it in there.
You don't think he did it?
I don't think he did it.
But you just defend Cat Williams.
Yeah, what was the purpose
I'm looking at it both ways. I don't have no proof.
But what do you believe?
I didn't see
what
nothing.
do you believe?
I just said I don't have no proof. I didn't see anything.
You kind of contradicting yourself
nobody
by defending Cat Williams.
Well, I'm saying I'm leaving the door open. I'm not saying. Listen, it's just like.
Nobody has evidence.
No, nobody got evidence. That's what I'm saying. If it's like you go to court and you get tried for murder, right? You was in the area. I just don't have no proof. And then you get, you ain't get you. But they say what's that word they use when you get off and they said
acquitted.
Acquitted without precedence or something.
Without precedence.
So that means we can come back and revisit that again.
Again, I don't want to hijack this, but I gotta do this.
Go ahead.
So, audience members, you guys can't see what I'm about to point at. You might hear some laughter, but you guys can't see it. But if there's evidence, that means this must be true. Hey, this must be true.
It must be true.
So I'm pointing at something, audience.
The evidence is there, man.
Now the evidence is here.
Facts.
The evidence there.
So
bro.
it got to be true.
Say, man.
Now I don't want to bring this to the forefront. So what I'm gonna say,
y'all dirty. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all dirty.
So what I'm gonna say is there were speculations about Mike molesting children or whatever. Mm-hmm. But what I honestly believe, I don't think he did that.
I don't either.
But here's my belief of why he was around children or why he took children under his wing. If you notice, the children he took under his wing were people like, what's his name?
Webster.
Mm-hmm. And what's the little white boy name? Hold on, let me explain to you. Mm-hmm. He shared the same thing that they did as far as a child being in entertainment. So what I think he had them for was to teach them, hey, man, this stuff happens.
You brought it up.
Let me show you.
You brought it up. You see the interview with Webster?
What did Webster say about
Webster
Mike?
was 23 years old when he was sitting in his lap. That's a grown-ass man.
Okay, time out. But let's say
Cat Williams said himself.
Listen,
get off of Cat Williams. You just said that you thought he was crazy, but you studied referencing the shit that
I'm just
in the days,
he ain't gonna put in his stand up, and it's not true that Webster not knowing that Webster was 23 years old when he was sitting in his lap.
What mind are you using here?
Think about it.
Webster was not 23, bro. When you saw, how old was Webster when you saw him on his TV show, bro? He was 23.
I'm finna find out how old Webster is. I'm finna Google.
Webster was not 23.
So look,
when he was doing that show,
he was exaggerating, bro.
Let's go.
Of course,
yeah. Webster wasn't 23, but let's go with what you said. Webster's 23. If Webster was 23, he was acting as a child on the show. Why can't he act as a child with Mike?
Sitting in his lap?
Yeah. How old was Webster?
Webster's older than me. He's 53.
So Webster's 53.
So if he did that 20, he did that interview 20 years ago. He did that interview 30 years ago. That would make him 23.
How old were you when you were watching?
The interview was done 30 years ago, but he wasn't sitting in his lap 30 years ago.
Yes, it was.
No,
did you see the
interview? Didn't happen right after he was.
Listen,
what year was he sitting in Michael Jackson's lap?
I gotta look that up.
He was a child.
Okay.
How old was Webster? How old is Webster now?
53.
Okay. How old were you when the TV show Webster came out?
That's not when he was sitting in his lap.
That's when they was kicking it.
That's when it was,
bro. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's when it was.
That's when it was.
You was a child just like him.
You was a child.
So you
No,
live
I
with
wasn't.
Cat Williams.
No.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was in the military. When I saw him sitting,
That was the interview probably, but when the actual act occurred, we were all in school.
We were kids.
Yeah.
So the Jacksons family produced a total of 27 U.S. #1 hits out of all the Jackson siblings having gold records. All of them have gold records to credit, with LaToya holding the distinction of being the first Jackson sister to attain one.
you're right. He was 26. I'm sorry. You're right. I got it wrong. I was 3 years off. The interview happened in 1991. I was 3 years off.
That's the interview.
That's the interview.
That's the interview. When
He was sitting in his lap in 1991. So I'm sorry.
What are you reading that says that he was
That was
26?
not 1991, man. You got to give me something different than that.
Okay.
I don't believe Mike was
The
what they
interview occurred,
made him be.
and he was probably in his 20s. But when he sat on his lap, he wasn't.
He was younger than that because Macaulay Culkin wasn't no 20 years old. He was a kid too.
Anything after the 90s, I don't think I really had TV. In the 80s, I ain't really had. I had a black and white TV with a thing, so I ain't see too much TV in the 80s.
My only reason for bringing that up was to say that Mike had been where they're going, and he's seen what they're gonna see,
and he know what they're gonna be experiencing,
and he
as
know what they're
child
gonna be
actors,
experiencing.
as child stars.
Right. I think he was just trying to protect them from the devious stuff that goes on, or trying to be that person that you can talk to about it. I don't think Mike was doing nothing with them kids, man.
I mean, Mike was
I
a
said
big
the same
kid.
thing. I don't think he was either. I don't think it,
But you believe shit that Cat Williams
no,
saying about
I
him.
believe Mike has done some suspect stuff.
and then
That's
too,
it.
here's something else
That's all I'm
you
saying.
gotta keep in
Why
mind.
is kids spending the night with you, bro?
Here's
For
something
real,
else you gotta
that's
keep in
that's
mind.
suspect.
with
Would
Mike,
you let
man.
your kids stay with Mike?
Mike got a zoo. The kids want to
Yeah,
be
that
there.
Never
Spending the night.
Neverland.
Man,
Mike
you
got
can't
a
play
zoo.
with
Think
Boy.
about the kids that
Mike
were there.
got
A
a
lot
I
of
get
them
it.
were
They
sickly
can come
kids,
during
man.
the day
He-
and
right.
take your ass
Hold on,
home
they
at night.
sickly
What's
kids,
the part?
man.
Not
These
all of
kids
them.
were sick with
lot of
Down
them-
syndrome.
Macaulay Culkin wasn't sick.
No, but the kids that's at the Neverland had Down syndrome, all kind of different issues.
Make-A-Wish type of kid.
These
Yeah,
kids
they were.
were hospitalized kids that he was showing, hey, you could have a child life. I got it. And he didn't charge these kids nothing.
And
man.
I agree, and that's why I said I don't
Mike
think he
was a good-hearted person.
I honestly believe that.
Mike did not do nothing with no children, bro, on no sexual level, man.
I just said I honestly believe it
let
too.
Let me say this here, man. So, Emmanuel Lewis, who is Webster, was born in 1971.
Okay.
So that would make him 53 years old.
Right now.
March 1971. So roughly about 53 years old, right? Now, the TV show Webster came out in 1983. So from 1983 to 1987. So in 1983, Emmanuel Lewis, now keep in mind that he was already undersized.
Yes, he was.
Now, in 1983, when that show came out, Emmanuel Lewis was, 13 years
11,
old? 12,
12,
13 years
about
old.
12, yeah.
So he was a kid. Now, he's already undersized. So if he was that age, 12, 13 undersized, he was almost like a toddler. Almost like a toddler.
Okay.
So
Did you look up the interview, not the show?
I'm not talking about, here's what I'm trying to explain to you.
Okay.
What I'm trying to explain to you is when the man was, first of all, I only seen Emmanuel Lewis and Mike one time. At an award show, and
That's
Mike
it.
was packing him.
That's
Mike
it.
had packed him. That's all I saw.
Okay.
That's all I saw. This sitting on the lap, that was a rumor that Cat Williams started.
That was not a rumor. I seen that interview when he was sitting on his lap.
What interview?
I wish I could.
What interview?
I'll tell you what. After this show, I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
But let me ask this question before we get off, because I gotta get out of here. We've been here too long. What interview did you see Mike have with Emmanuel Lewis in his lap? What interview was that?
I'm gonna look it up for you right now.
So y'all come back. I want answers from Comedian 96, and I want to give a big shout out and condolences to the Jackson family. Hey, listeners, y'all come back because we're going to put this to an end. So that's all, y'all, for this edition of Music Monday. Thanks for tuning in. Come back tomorrow and check out True Tuesday with K Money. Hit that like button, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook, The 52 Scott Podcast. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast.